Good evening. Welcome to the Climate Change Task Force. This is May 24th, our regular meeting, and committee members attending are Michelle Corral, Kellen Ingalls, Karen McKnight, Michael Oman, and myself, Sandy Wilmot. Call this meeting to order. I don't see any public here, so we'll move on to task force communication updates. This I put on there because I had a few things I wanted to let you know were going on, and also wondered if maybe some of you other committee members had things you'd like to update us on. My information is that I was able to meet with the infrastructure committee, um, as well as a separate meeting with Kurt Johnston and Brad Holden, just going over those parts of the resilience and adaptation sections that are about infrastructure. And we had some good conversations. One of the things that really caught them in particular was the need to kind of stockpile large material in the event of huge flooding across roads and that sort of thing, as well as trying to plan ahead for large culverts or other materials that would be needed in the event of a large storm. So I feel good about their involvement, coming forward. I know they were originally intended to be part of this task force, so having them know what's going on a little more and involved, I thought was helpful. Brad did mention to me that a number of years ago he looked into some emergency communications, like something where you can automatically text residents in the event of an emergency, something called text.gov, perhaps. But it was expensive. It was like $3,000 a year, and it only allowed a certain number of texts. So they decided that wasn't worth it right now. And with the new website, they're hoping that the communications will flow both ways, them out, and if residents have some issues, that they can actually log that into the town website. So that seems like a logical future communication tool there. The other thing is we have in the plan to update the road ordinance. And several times I've heard people say that it already says that we have we can only have a 10% grade, so it would limit those steep driveways where you'd expect more storm runoff and that sort of thing. So I got the strong feeling that updating that really wouldn't be a helpful thing in their eyes. Um, Brad did mention that there's a new state stormwater regulation that may actually help with limiting long driveways. I didn't totally understand that, but it has to do with limiting the amount of impervious surfaces to just a half acre, um, which currently it's 1 acre. So that may take care of the need to have an Underhill specific ordinance about stormwater.
Andy, I don't
So that
think that driveways aren't considered impervious surface unless they're paved, and
right.
mostly in Underhill they are not.
Mm.
So I don't know how much that would affect us. But.
Okay. Mm. Any
Andy, I just
other?
have a quick question.
Sure.
The discussion with the infrastructure committee that in the case of severe flooding, we'd need to stockpile large amounts of material. What kind of material, like material to help fix roads, or what? What kind of material were you all referring to?
Well, both. they don't normally have a lot of leftover materials. They kind of plan on what roads they're doing and truck it according to that. But they were basically saying really large rocks and things you can put in these huge holes like
Oh,
that happened on Route 15 when that washed away. That sort of material that right now is not really stockpiled at all.
okay.
Yeah, I think if we're going to do that, we really need to. I mean, that's a slightly non-trivial. I actually had some work down on Route 100 right after Irene went through, and saw what happened there, and also what the towns had to go through in order to fix it and address it. And they really needed to find a local source of material. I mean, they were tearing down whole hills to. I mean, the amount of erosion and destruction was just staggering. I mean, it's like you're kind of rebuilding the Earth's surface. It's not like fixing a road. So there, I think it's a really important discussion to have, and I appreciate that they're looking forward to that, especially with some stuff like a modest stockpile of riprap or something like that. If we do get some localized erosion, but if we get a big one, it's going to be a much bigger kind of project than that. So.
Mm, yeah. Um, any other activities people want to draw our attention to?
No, I think that I've thought of a few things as we've gone along, and I think that kind of your question of kind of whither from here with this committee, and what kinds of things we want to do. I mean, one of the things that I thought prior to the founding of this committee, and that I thought would be a really worthwhile thing having in town, would be at some point, and maybe even around the broader release of this particular plan, convening what I was calling a climate summit, where we get the different committees and a bunch of people kind of in the same room to talk about where things are. And this would provide a really interesting focus for it, and spread out beyond. We have some helpful reps on some of the key committees here, but and even get some public input from the town, and really discuss and raise awareness about what's going on and what the tools are available for that. So it was something that I had thought about. I don't know whether that's communication or you know, subsequent committee activity, or what, but that was one of the things that I've thought about for years off and on. So
Yeah, thank you for that. I also was not necessarily thinking of a summit, but recognizing that there's so many other groups that work in and around Underhill and do the kind of work that will be needed especially for resilience and adaptation. And we don't really have a common bond or a forum where people can say, I'm doing this and I need help with that. And how can we make those connections? So, what you're suggesting, Michael, might be a way to draw other people in addition to just the town government kind of committees. So,
good.
Karen, did you have something?
Well, I think that part of our responsibility, if we have the committees that have joined together to form this, is to provide educational opportunities to start drumming it home that climate change is coming, and in certain ways we can do things to mitigate perhaps the effects of it. And for example, having the state forest climatologist, I think is what she is, talk about how to protect your maple trees or how to protect the forest, or I noticed that Ethan Tapper was doing something over at the Andrews Town Forest last Saturday with another speaker talking about the impact of trees and wildlife, the impact of climate change on trees and wildlife, and what to do to mitigate that. So in terms of, we need to present our plan, but we need to also sort of change the mindset to start thinking about this is real. Things are changing. Vermont's not an oasis that's going to be spared, but Vermont can do things to prepare to keep our forests as much alike as they can be, and to,
Okay, that sounds like something we can always keep going.
yeah.
It reminded me also that I had a conversation with Ann Joppa from the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and we were talking about how to outreach the plan. She was suggesting that in the process of having meetings through the Planning Commission and the Select Board, that if you draw that out enough, then the public begins to see what's going on and can participate, and that can serve as outreach. So only tangentially related to what you were saying, Karen, but another way to outreach the plan and to interact with the public. So,
There
okay, well, go
um,
ahead.
there are a number of social media channels around town that people follow too. I know that, God, I know of at least two Underhill Facebook groups. There's one just for my neighborhood. There are multiple. So there's that kind of outreach that we should start thinking about too. Sort of a more grassroots
Local.
way of spreading information, just letting people take it and spread the word.
You have your own neighborhood Facebook? That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's a group. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Ah.
We always know where the bear is.
Of course.
I love it.
I do like the idea of, I mean, it would take a lot of planning, but planning a summit day that could be engaging a lot of people and have, I don't know, a few speakers and a couple of little, discussion groups for whatever people might be interested, but also have fun, like food or, you know, anyway, it would take a lot of planning, but I think it'd be a nice way to try to engage the community.
I think there's a way to do that, maybe attach it to an already existing event too. They have those food truck nights and performances. They have the farmers market at Mills Riverside Park. There's stuff like that that wouldn't require starting from scratch and doing all that planning because it's already sort of done. That might be a good option. Because I totally agree that, you know, if we started a new thing, that would be potentially a lot of work.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Energy Committee is going to be at the farmers market roughly once a month. And we're also planning an EV event for June at BRMS and also the library, a sort of two-pronged sort of thing. And hopefully we'll be looping in some e-bike stuff on that as well. So any of these things we can build off of, or just whatever. It's just there will be some things going on that will be pushing.
Yeah, and I like the idea of having something, a presentation kind of thing, but also, a walk in the woods in Mills River Park to, highlight different forest things or, bird changes or impacts or, kind of tying things together that way. So,
Sure, do a
okay.
publicity event, convene at the Energy Committee Pavilion and head off into Mills River Park and at the farmers market and grab a dinner while you're at it. I mean, it could be a great little event.
All right, we'll keep that on the list. Let's take a look at the implementation plan and see how that's looking and what we want to do there.
Where did I put that? Right here. Implementation plan is right Whoops. Okay,
Is that showing on your screen?
wait a
No.
minute. No,
Going on both of my screens.
I see something.
I see something, but high priority
You-
action.
I see the spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Uh, can you see it enough on your screen, or is there something I should be doing differently?
It looks clear to me. Others?
I can see it fine.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Michael had put this together last time and filled in some of the initial categories and whatnot. Have people had a chance to look at it a little bit, or
I've only had a chance to skim it. I'm really so sorry. I have not had a chance to really give it thought or try to even fill out any of the columns or anything like that.
oh, that's all right.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
You're in
That,
good
looks,
company.
yeah, I mean, yeah, but it looks, I mean, thank you for all this effort. And there's a lot of great ideas here.
If I could just take a minute, Sandy, and I also sent around a much more elaborate one that I had produced as part of a study that I did. I think this was the Route 7 corridor study that I did for VTrans and MPO and that sort of thing, which is, more elaborately filled out. And this is sort of built on that basic model. Thinking about it a bit, and one of the things that I didn't include for everyone is that that itself was part of a larger chapter in which for example, the funding mechanisms and tools had little sections in a narrative report to describe them. And I think that it would be possible if we want to. I think this could be a helpful addition for what we have. I don't think it would, it's not like we can't produce the plan without it, but I think that this would be a helpful piece for people to be able to take away and possibly work with. I mean, South Burlington's doesn't have it, so I mean, I don't think that we would be, kind of considered incomplete without it. But um, I did begin to feel like the funding column might be kind of beyond, it was sort of beyond my ability to sort through. I mean, they're just, especially this, like in the transportation study that I did, there were a limited number of funding directions. But, in this one, the transportation covers only transportation parts. And then there's, land conservation parts, and there's hydrology parts, and there's planning parts, and there's, kind of every other potential part that I do not have the knowledge to really know how to fill out. And I was wondering if it might be worthwhile having sort of a narrative discussion about funding opportunities. But the other pieces of this, I think, could still be useful without trying to assign specific actions to specific funding sources in this particular case. So it just seemed like that would be something that would make it a little easier for us if we want to follow it, which I consider a significant if, and would not be at all offended if people decide they don't. So to sort of, the other parts I think we could tackle in terms of knowing how the town works, and, assigning priorities and some tools that we have at our disposal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, short, medium, and long. I think I had like a 1 to 2 year time frame in the short, and up to 5 in the medium, and greater than 5 in long, just as a conceptual kind of framework for dealing with that. So that I just wanted to put that out, that that's one approach to doing this if we want to do it. I can't do it all, but I can work on it.
Michael, can you repeat what your time frames were?
My basic idea was something on the order of 1 to 2 years in the short time frame, 2 to 5 in the medium, and longer, greater than 5 in the longer term. that
Okay.
also kind of, dovetails with the planning cycles and stuff like that a little bit. So
I like that idea a lot because I started working on the funding part for some of the resilience, and it was hard to say exactly what action items would be fundable under what funding source.
exactly. But I think a discussion of various funding sources, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, I know VTrans has put out something it's called "Show Us the Money," which is like a booklet. It's pretty dated. It's a little dated now. I won't say pretty dated, but a little dated now, of about a dozen programs that VTrans supports that provides money for towns to do things, and information from that could be included within the transportation section. And I'm wondering if we could contact Anne and see if anyone has, begun to pull together anything on a climate basis for other avenues, water and hydrology, conservation, planning, those different sources, at least to include, if you will, a catalog with some basic ideas about what those funding sources do and their general applicability, as opposed to, as you say, because I was running into the same problem when I started trying to say, well, geez, is this going to be fundable under the IRA or the infrastructure bill or, ARPA? Is ARPA all gone? I mean, all of those things became, and trying to sort that out for each individual action became a lot harder. Whereas all the other ones, I think we could get at least a pretty good stab at if we wanted to.
Okay. Um,
Can I clarify? I think I asked this last time, but now I'm forgetting. Are we trying to decide whether we include this kind of implementation plan as like an appendix to the report that we're going to submit at the sort of at the same time, and or is this something that is like the report gets submitted and the groups get briefed, and this is something that would be like next steps that other people might help inform, or this would be like an appendix to the report that we're trying to get done. I'm just trying to
I
understand how this plan, like how we're conceptualizing it. Is it part of the report we're trying to get finished now?
appendix, yes.
Hmm.
Timing, I'm not sure. I
Okay, so we are
think,
thinking of it as like an appendix. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And it may be that we we include a title page in the climate action plan that says appendix and identifies an implementation plan, but that it's not finished at the time that we submit to at least the planning commission, depending on our timeline, I guess is my thinking. If we are to write a narrative like Michael's suggesting for the funding and for, talking about some of the tools that are identified in there, that's going to take a little time. And I really would like to have this process finished so that we can start talking to the planning commission about it.
Because part of my thought is that it seems like, I mean, I don't have any expertise to really help much with this. Michael, your work has been exceptional here. It seems like it would be helpful to have other people in the town involved in helping to think through these steps and the funding and all of that. Like it seems like um, this seems like more than this group may be prepared to do in a way that's final and saying, put on a, here, this is part of what we're giving the town is here's the action plan. Like first we want to make sure that we want to see if the town even agrees with the report and the recommendations before we in detail submit our ideas. I mean, I think we can submit some draft or we can say it's in process. We want to talk to you about it, but it'd be great to get other people involved in helping to think through this, I guess is what I'm saying.
I can share our experience with the planning commission when we were doing the town plan. This the implementation section of it was done much later than the complete plan. And it was really done by Andrew, who was the zoning administrator at the time. And he just filled it out. And then we looked at it and we made a few tweaks. But and it isn't really set in stone. It's kind of an advice, advice on how to implement. It's not actually anything that people actually look at a lot. However, I will say that the priority ideas here are a little bit about what I was going to suggest we talk about next, and that is we can't throw out to people 200 different action items and expect to get very good traction. If we could identify the top three in each of the different categories that we think will really make a difference, um, and then highlight those in some of our presentations, I think that would be the most effective way um, to make some change. And perhaps we could do that here tonight. So let's, unless someone has any other ideas on this topic, let's take a look at each section and what we think the priority action items are. I think I'll go back to the plan itself to look at those, if that's okay with you all.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oops.
I'm just looking at our agenda just to make sure. Are we talking now about, we're still talking about the implementation plan? We're not talking about top 3 priority actions for town, committees, individuals, and community yet. I'm just wanting to,
It is related to that. It is, they
okay,
merge together,
they
Michelle.
merged. Okay, because I wasn't sure if that organization was, what are the top 3 priorities for the town, for committees? Because right now we're looking at by the domain of,
Right.
okay, all right.
So it is mostly having to do with the implementation plan.
Okay.
I'm not as organized as maybe I need to be on this.
It's only because I'm trying to take the notes and figure out where to put it.
Okay.
So here we have the high impact areas for transportation. Where'd they all go?
I was wondering, I thought there were more than that once upon a time. There's only 2 left.
That's not right. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, and I
My
see it on
slides.
mine too, and on the Google Docs document. I was wondering what happened with that. I thought, gosh, that doesn't sound quite like I remember it.
I think I can go back and restore
Andy, I see 2 copies from March 24th and 22nd in the directory.
I know I'm going back through them to try to figure out where they got left off.
And that has the new tables in it. Oh yeah, there's a page break there, that there are 2 more below the page break.
Which version are you on?
The March 24th one.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, this one has a page break, and then there's install public charging station on town properties and expand bike walking opportunities are the 2 below the page break. I don't know how the one turned into the other.
Hmm. I still can't seem to find it. I'm very sorry. Um, can you share your screen, Michael? Would that be okay? It's
It's actually on a different computer.
Okay.
Let me go. Let me see if I can find it on this one. Because it's kind of the way I do this. I run my. Um,
Oh, can you just send it to the one you're using?
well, it's actually available in the directory where the this other one, the latest one, is. There are 2 copies there. What can I do? I can. I could. I could download it as a PDF. What do we got here? Copy. Let
Oh,
me
I got
try.
it now. Let
Okay, you
me
got it?
um, let me just put those where they should
Okay.
go.
I will not attempt to send it to anyone then.
It's what happens when you format things.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes
it's
they go away.
right. And then there was something just below it too. Let's see. There's a sentence below that. Ensure. I think that was going to be another bullet. Ensure high internet speeds to encourage working from home and telehealth appointments. So that was going to be yet another. There were 3 bullets. This one and the March 24th one. That one stopped being a bullet for some reason. And then there's something about a communications union district. Oh, Chittenden County, joining Chittenden County Communications Union District, right? Okay. That was the proposal. And then buildings comes after that.
Okay, well, I'm going to share this now. I'm very sorry for the delay here. Hmm.
There they are.
Okay, let's see. Since there's a page break in the middle, it makes it a little challenging, doesn't it? Okay, there you can see all of them, maybe. What are the top 3 there, you think?
Sandy, I was wondering if you could say more about the need to um, decrease these to 3 of them. Is
I'm
that
not saying we should decrease them in the plan. I'm saying if we want to emphasize the ones we think will accomplish our targets the most, that we, in presentations at least, emphasize particular ones.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
That
Does
makes
that
sense.
make sense to everybody?
Yeah, and I
Yes.
wonder if, as we're looking at these, we could think about ways to maybe summarize multiple bullets into one bullet. So, instead of omitting something where
Okay.
possible.
I was noticing with particularly the EV ones, three of them almost yell out to be combined into one, promote EVs through a program of, that includes a number of possible specific activities.
Right. I think
Um,
they're succinct, but to show some meat on the bones here of what's being suggested.
right. I think that's a good point.
I don't think that we have to edit the plan as written, but I do think for presentation, we can say promote use of electric vehicles is the main point, and we could say, e.g., by having more, you know, um, charging equipment, providing incentives, but that the main point is promote use of
Okay.
EVs. Yeah.
I and where this is coming from is when I looked at the presentation that you sent, Sandy, I wanted it. I was I was wanting it to say more to be more of an action rather than a um,
Just
sort
a
of a summary
strategy.
promote, you know, because I think we have that in the plan and we should find a way to presentations succinctly. But I like that idea of e.g. and then list some of the specifics.
Okay. I'll see what I can do on combining those that way. I will just mention that the presentation, I was trying to avoid too much detail in the initial rollout so that people wouldn't get hung up on specific details, but rather kind of absorb the whole plan as it is. That was the intention, but we can talk more about that. Okay, so I'm going to
Yeah, I think I can see three of them right there, Sandy. One is the EV approach. The other one is the compact growth and emphasizing transit and walk bike approach. Those things all go right together. And also, I don't know what you want to do about it, but that gets reflected in other parts of it as well. So at least that one should show up in the land use part and the resilience part. And, so we'll be seeing a duplication there, and, we'll be seeing that in multiple places. And then the internet one, of course, has its own thing in its own right, telecommuting and internet. So there's really kind of three themes that I see here pretty right off the bat.
yeah, okay. Thank you. That's good. Okay, let's move on to buildings. Here's the high impact ones. There's 2, 4, 5 of them. I will say I had a conversation with Ann Joppa, and she feels that the next to the last one, where we implement an ordinance requiring new buildings to have 85% heat come from renewables, that will have a very large impact.
Depending on how many new buildings we get.
Right. She may have been thinking about South Burlington.
Right. I
Right.
don't know how much new construction. There is more and more, but yeah.
I mean, basically here too, we have two basic themes. One is weatherization, and the other alternative heat sources, heat pumps, basically. We're promoting two things here that have different facets to them.
Okay.
And if you will, that's, I don't know whether you call it a third avenue or part of both of those, which is find additional ways to help finance that, make it easier for people to do financially. So we've really kind of got two and a half or three kind of basic approaches here.
Okay. That sounds good.
I mean, I think, yeah, I agree with that. It can be clumped, but I think letting people know about existing incentives and tax rebates, I don't know how well informed people are about that, but it seems really important to let, and I don't know, to let people know that uh, that's all available.
Uh-huh. I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see three, I think. So there's that education, and I guess I consider the second, um, well, the first and the second as the education. Third is its own thing, create an energy revolving loan fund, which I think is pretty important. And then the third category would be the last two bullets, which is, I guess, requirements for um, new and existing structures. I don't know how to put it, but it's, requirements for structures.
Yeah. Hmm. So the education part is both about weatherizing, about alternative heat
Sources.
sources, and about funding, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe that doesn't have that, just maybe not a separate bullet, but that is a strategy for all of them.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. There's a component for that. Okay. Um, the renewables. Bef While we're here, I just wanted to identify some information that Anne provided for me on. We've been wondering why the solar acres for prime is so much lower than the acres for base. Yet, when we look at the potential for energy generation, it's the prime that has a higher potential. And this is basically because the calculations for base potential is much lower. In other words, there's actually not as much energy that can be generated from the base solar. So
Why
it
is
has to
that?
do. Why?
Yes.
I am only repeating what Melanie Needle told me about how they make those calculations. So
Yeah.
um,
It's ground mounted solar.
it may be because they expect that even though there's a lot, there's more acreage, um, when it comes down to it, there's also some constraints for that. That's why the prime locations are prime because there aren't as many constraints that potentially could get in the way of installations. So they're just anticipating that even though there is solar potential, there's also a lot of constraints so that you won't be
Yeah.
able to develop as much.
I think that's the only thing that could possibly make any sense. I would, just for me, I'd love to see the basis for that calculation, but that I don't think we need to beat that dead horse anymore.
Okay, no more beating of dead horse.
Poor horses, dead or alive.
I don't like that talk. Sorry.
I know, I know. I just
Oh, sorry, Karen. Um,
I have horse right now. I'm a horse little
sure.
person.
It's only an expression. I do not, and the no horses were harmed in the creation of this expression, as the movies say, or something.
Yeah.
so what about in this arena?
Okay. To promote.
Now, Anne also had some other comments here too. I don't know whether we want to address those before we plunge or not.
She also said that they are redoing they're updating the state greenhouse gas emissions, and therefore each of the regions, and ultimately by next year all the towns will have new greenhouse gas emission data as well as new targets. So even though we already have an enhanced energy plan, we will be required to modify that next year anyways. So some of these comments have to do with that. Um, and the other thing is you've been asking about population changes and how that might be factored into the calculations.
Right,
And that's some of what she's answering in these comments.
right. But there was one of there were. Let's see. I did have a couple of questions about what's there. In-state generation, population. Right, that was good. I appreciate that. So I assume that we'll go with that. But the one about the preferred solar,
Yeah,
she said stuff about the comprehensive plan versus the comprehensive energy plan. And it's my understanding that the comprehensive energy plan is incorporated in the comprehensive plan. So therefore, that would kind of automatically be the case.
yeah. I don't know why she's saying that, but yes.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
already have those maps. They're already in our town plan. They're already part of the comprehensive energy plan. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So that so whatever we came up with, we could, if it gets put into the energy plan, then it sort of gets looped back into the comprehensive plan. It's just part of the normal planning process.
yes.
We might need an addendum to the comprehensive plan to incorporate that, but we could do it.
So I think if there are three categories to boil this down to me, it sounds something like promote through education again, and that folds in the first bullet and some of them on the second grouping on the second page. So there's promote through education that includes reaching out to people, and we can state that a little bit better probably than just promote through education. But invest, there's promote, invest, and investigate are the three actions I think here. Invest would be this bullet on the solar co-op,
Mm-hmm.
and the bullet on the second page, invest in solar panels in developed locations.
I think promote community solar as well. That's very close to the solar co-op. Well, maybe not. Organize kind of.
So the ones you would group are the second one under invest would be the solar co-op. Uh, then on the
So
second page, the first one, invest in solar panels, and also the promote solar group purchasing. Isn't
Well,
that all under invest?
that's almost more like those last two tend to group together. In other words, that's developing in private owners and stuff like that, finding ways for private and distributed um, generation. And that would also incorporate number one.
Well, you've lost me. I'm sorry.
I
So
think putting it in its simplest terms, we should think about what the town can actually do. And to me, it's promote, invest, and investigate. And we fit
Yeah.
them
So
into those three buckets.
so promote through education about the importance of and options for renewable energy, invest in things like solar co-op, solar panels, and investigate funds that are programs, funds that are available to help this transition.
Right.
All right. Sounds good.
sounds good to me.
Moving on. This is a little more challenging, these. Um, just a note about all of the markings here. I went back to the town plan and tried to identify in there where we had already established that we wanted to do some of these things so that there's a good tie back already in the town plan. And
I
it
think that's
might
very
just,
helpful.
yeah, I think it'll help with implementation and prioritizing.
Where the heck it came from. It's not just out of thin air.
You're right. Well,
Close.
What's the big, are these are all under one larger category? Or
yeah,
I forget how
it's a
this is organized. Just because I don't have it
it's
in,
a whole different thing here.
so natural and working lands. Okay. That's the
And
big
our
category.
target is really to ensure land is managed in a way that keeps carbon sequestration as well as all of the other values and provides food security.
Okay.
Well, if we're looking at three for the big category, we basically have, there's
Yeah, we have the
forest,
three.
forest,
Ah,
agriculture, and land use. So that would be my first cut.
Yeah.
okay.
I tend to
wait, what
focus
are you
on the
going to add?
actions,
Wait,
on
what
the
were you
verbs.
planning on adding there?
We haven't decided anything yet, I think.
Okay, wait,
We're muttering now.
all right.
Or at least I am. Other people may be saying meaningful things, but I was just muttering.
Kellen, did you have something you were suggesting?
Yeah, I was thinking more of what verbs are we using? What are the actions that we're recommending? There are three clear categories here, but are there three clear actions? I guess when I look at the presentation, the question in my mind as I read it is, what are we doing about it? And so framing it that way might be more effective. Um, I don't have an answer, so maybe it's in these bullets, but
Well, let me take a shot at least something or a couple of them. One,
yeah,
obviously, education and information and outreach is a big piece of everything that's in here. There are some
To
very important regulatory things associated with it. And I'm guessing that there's going to be investment in here somewhere, but I'm not immediately seeing it jump off the page at me.
Well, there's something about landowner incentive that might be considered investment.
I
And
think of
then
it. I'm
state
sorry.
funding.
I think of investment as the town doing something on its own land, or spending its own money. And
Well, it could also do a tax expenditure, Kellen. Like, for
sure,
example, the tax abatements and stuff like that, and a few things like that could be used as an investment as well.
yeah, that's very true. So some of these on private property are in the same realm as the other categories where we're trying to connect landowners to the right resources to know what they can do themselves. So that's more of the educate action.
Right, and whether it's resources on how to manage their forests, or it's resources as in funding that could help pay for certain things.
And I think that possibly, I mean, that we're talking about the town actually doing like open space contracts and that sort of thing that have an effect on town. So that in that sense, that's an investment in private property to preserve those things.
Yeah. Does the town have property that it manages like this? Does anybody know?
Well, there's Crane Brook, the whole Crane Brook area.
Hmm.
Not a huge amount, but
Well, it's around a little bit less than 100 acres, like 86 perhaps
Hmm.
acres. That is managed to be messy. Messy is supposed to be the way you manage now.
we'll call it
And
natural.
all right, natural.
And we also have investments in the Mills River Park.
Yep.
Small area of that is in Underhill.
Mhm.
But it seems to me that those are the three tools or whatever that we're bringing to bear on this is kind of the information slash outreach slash education side. There is some potential investment. Mostly, I think a tax investment would be, but there could be. I mean, we could decide that the town wants to acquire certain other key pieces or parcels for one purpose or another that fit this need. And then there is the regulatory side on this one, which is pretty significant.
So would you
And
suggest, for example, that instead of having the categories be forest, carbon, ag, and land use, that we might say, okay, regulatory, and for example, regulating clearings associated with development, uh, you know, some examples from each of the different categories?
Well, I like the action approach to it, but I
Yeah,
worry about losing the sense of those three different areas that we're working on.
yeah.
I think that it's important for people to know that this has at least those three components. And I'm not quite sure how to resolve that tension.
Maybe there's something we can do right in the heading of the whatever it's going to be, a slide. I guess it's a slide like the one you sent around, Sandy. Um, Maybe we put it right at the top and just say these three categories. Here's what we're doing for them. Because I agree.
well, you in the presentation you sort of have that under natural and working lands, where you say, talk about carbon sequestration, ecosystem services, and food security. So,
I'm only just
Well,
I
now
think you
opening up
actually,
the, oh, sorry.
go ahead, sorry.
go
I just
ahead.
think I'm only just now opened up the slides. I'm sorry, I kind of lost track of that. But thank you. It looks really nice. I guess I'm trying to figure like, are we trying to put more slides with the action items? I mean, it seems like it's important for whoever, what other groups we might briefing to have the main strategies is listed, or are we just thinking about talking points, like whoever's making the presentation would say, for example, we want to focus on, investment, education, and regulatory, so I'm trying to, are we trying to revise the slides, or just have
Actually
talking
look
points?
actually look pretty good, actually, I have to
I
say.
know the slide. I mean, the slides are great summary of what's in here, and I don't know, like we're not going to have. I don't think we're like this is a huge amount of information.
It is.
Are we going to have like 3 hours to brief them?
I was going to say, do we really do all this stuff?
hmm.
Um,
I'd sort of like to skip back though to the page we're on for a sec. I don't mean to interrupt, but in the same way that we proposed perhaps a tax on, I think it was alternate sources of energy, that we could here pursue landowner incentives to keep forests forested, or we could have a town pursuit in purchasing properties, as Michael said, that would build on the town's ownership of forested areas that would then promote forest sequestration. Am I making sense?
You
Maybe.
are. I was just going to see if we have anything under the resilience that has to do um, with that. No, I guess not.
No. Well, here where it said support maintaining large forest blocks, is that what I just read? Support them or purchase, have the ability to purchase. It's to promote climate adapted forest management techniques and support maintaining large forest blocks. We could add a trailer that said support maintaining or purchase large forest blocks, like a town
Support
forest.
meaning or purchasing.
Yeah, or purchase, support maintaining or
Uh,
purchasing.
Sandy, in some ways, I feel like we're turning ourselves inside out a little bit. I think that when I look at your slides again just a moment ago, I thought that they were a really good synopsis of the stuff that was there. And under natural and working lands, we had 4 items instead of 3. I don't know that we have to turn ourselves inside out in order to avoid those 4, and I thought they were very well stated.
Yeah, I did.
Do you think we could pull those up?
Okay, let's move on to those.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as I was making the suggestions for this last category, that's a good point. I didn't have those in mind about what they already are, so maybe it sounds like they're great as is. So
Yeah.
let's not tinker if we don't need to.
Okay,
Very pretty presentation.
why don't I
Yeah.
just run through this and you can, I won't say everything that I might say, but um, I had a lot of conversations with Ann Joppa, and I'm sorry I keep forgetting to tell you everything about it. One of the things is that her funding source has changed, and she's no longer sort of at our disposal. She can answer questions and that sort of thing, but she's given us back authority over the whole plan, which means we will need to fine tune it and print it if we want and all of those things.
Mm.
She has offered to attend the select board meeting when it comes to that as an advisor for that. So just bearing that in mind. So it has changed now to say with support from her.
I thought so her name is Jappa. I thought it was Ann Janda or something.
It is.
Is,
Have I got it wrong again?
Yes. I didn't notice that, but it is.
Okay,
is it
I'll
is
change
it
it. So
Janda?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. Great. And that's really unfortunate news for us because she's been amazing.
I
Right.
know. Yeah. Okay, so our original purpose, the list of members in alphabetical order by first name. Um, what is in an action plan and why the lead up to this is that when we initially formed, we weren't sure what our task force was actually going to do, and we fixed on a climate action plan which has these components. And we thought that it would allow us to communicate the urgency of the actions that are in the town plan and other documents, both for the town, for the committees, for the community, and individuals. The topics that are in our town plan, this is general, not the outline itself. What we went through to get to the final plan. We had presentations, reports. We looked at other towns. We had a UVM class do some research. We looked at various data sources, and we looked at documents specific to Underhill, like the town plan, hazard mitigation plan,
We also
stormwater
heard
management.
and Jonda there.
Oh, thank you. Golly, I learned it wrong. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
there's two components to the plan. You can think about it in terms of mitigation. You can think about it in terms of adapting to climate. And our main objectives, therefore, are to reduce greenhouse gases and protect forests for carbon storage. That should probably be forests and agriculture. Um, Prepare and adapt to changes. Within the hazard mitigation plan, they have rated different hazards by intensity, frequency, and damage from an event. And these are the ones that we are mainly concerned with. They have documented all of these different storm damages from 1990 to 2021, including significant property and crop damages. Um, we were able to get some specific information from modeling, such as this from the Transportation Resilience Planning Tool, which identifies the impacts to our road system from the 100-year flood event potential. All these red areas are that potential. Vulnerable populations, some of this come from census, from the research that the UVM students did, and other information just showing those populations that we need to consider and see how our actions are equitable. So
20% of Underhill residents are single parents?
isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Like, is that of parents or of all residents? Because that seems
Yeah.
really,
It must be of parents,
yeah.
don't you think?
Anyway, that just jumped out at me. I think it must be
Yeah.
of parents. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at the 30% of income for housing too. That's 30% of the
Yep.
people.
What's
Yep.
the
30%
source
of
for this?
It's different things. This comes from the census. Some of these come from the health department. Uh, yeah, so it's different things.
And do we really
It's
have 6% minorities? What are they? And where are they?
they
I
that must be using census material for that, right?
it's
Self-identify.
census material, it's people that have identified with different minority groups. So yeah.
And maybe API and stuff like that.
I would I would definitely check the source because I agree 20% single parents sounds really high.
Okay.
Yeah,
And like, how does that if people who are older adults, like who aren't actually, they may have had children who are long gone and maybe they've lost a partner, are they considered a single parent? So how, I'm just curious how that's being defined.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would
Okay.
assume that if they were called single parents, it would be in a household with kids at home,
Yeah. So
the
anyway,
dependents at home.
Let's
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll look into that. Let's move on though. Okay.
yeah.
So here's our transportation targets. I condensed this into something that was a little more clear than our tables. And
Cindy,
here
do
are
you
just
realize number
what?
4 got cut off? Sandy? And that previous
Yeah.
one, number 4 got cut off.
Economic activity, it's there.
Right, now it is. Came back.
So this is where, there's just so much information. But I think getting across the idea that here's what we were trying to accomplish, the strategies that would then help with the target. My well, I'll continue on. Building, same kind of thing. These are straight from the plan. Renewable energies, natural and working lands.
When you've distilled that down to 4 items, I think that works pretty well.
Just for the strategies, yeah.
True, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
You've done such a nice job here.
yeah. This one is just like, whoo, there's a lot of them.
But there is a lot. I mean,
There is a
it's
lot,
almost like
yeah.
it's that whole other side of the Venn diagram that we broke up into like 6 other categories in the mitigation side, but all of the adaptation side is in that one
That's a
It's
great
true.
point,
piece.
Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Huh. Um, I think one of the things that we often don't communicate about is what is community resilience, and I found this definition that I thought was appropriate and gets back to what you're saying, Michael, about a summit and involving a variety of
Hmm.
groups. Um, I'm
And
not
there's
sure
our
this.
groups.
Yeah, right. This was where I was hoping to put some high priority actions, but I think that's just identifying that there is something for all of these different groups in the plan.
Yeah.
That would be the way to address that, I think.
I think that works
Um,
fine.
the funding options,
Kind of vague
again,
there.
we know what some of them are, so maybe listing them as just examples would be one way to go on that. So this is where I wanted to talk with you all about next steps, because we will have to communicate that as well. Um, so we need to go back to the Planning Commission, and it once we what Anne's suggestion was is that you spend a lot of time with them, and I wonder if one way to do that is to first at one meeting show this presentation as the overview, then distribute the plan to them so they can read it, and then come back to them with some of our detailed actions for the energy section, and then at a separate meeting, the working lands or the adaptation and resilience part of it. So we would have 3 meetings with the Planning Commission so that they understand what's in it and can then hopefully approve it and recognize that some of their activities need to be prioritized based on this. So that's what I have in mind. And then once we have presented to them, it's up to them then to recommend whether or not it goes to the select board, and in what capacity, is simply advisory, or as amending the town plan, or how it gets used in the long run. Cale sent me his feedback on that, since he used to be a zoning administrator and works for the League of Cities and Towns. And I think I'll just read you what he had to say there, because I think it was helpful. He says, as for procedure, a couple of thoughts. Once we present the plan to the Planning Commission, it'll be out of our court and at the whims of the Planning Commission. I suggest coordinating with Brian, who's our Planning Commission chair, ahead of time so that he understands and approves of the schedule of discussion. And the same can go for when we meet with the select board, that they might understand that we want to take 3 meetings to present the information. I believe we established that it's up to the Planning Commission to make the recommendation to the select board for adopting the plan. I have 2 thoughts on that. Even if the Planning Commission does not recommend it, I would still present it to the select board. It just wouldn't have the Planning Commission's endorsement. And secondly, but the Planning Commission would still need to be involved if it were to turn into a town plan amendment, which I think is the best course with the most effect. However, if we get the select board on board with it, they can request that the Planning Commission amend the plan to include this.
I think that
Anyways,
sounds basically reasonable, Sandy. I don't know if we need to decide that it's going to be X number of meetings with these particular topics. I think that the getting together with Brian, deciding how's the best way to handle it. I think that basically, if this does not get handled by the Planning Commission, it's kind of, we lose a lot. And I think that we should plan on going that route. I can ask maybe the Energy Committee to review and vote an endorsement or something like that. That may or may not be helpful. But I think that we should. I think that yours and Kale's instincts of getting together with Brian, sorting out how we're going to handle it. One meeting, two meetings, present this, present that. I think that that's a great thing to sort out in that particular meeting, and go with it, because I think we need planning PC buy-in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about uh, the the process with the Planning Commission, and it may be my misunderstanding, but my understanding is if one person on the Planning Commission doesn't want to go along with something, they don't go along with it. So would that be the situation with this town plan? There's something in it that might be very upsetting to certain individuals, and they'd say, well, I don't want this in it, so I'm not going to say that I would like it to go forward to the select board or something. Or is that the situation on the planning commission, or?
Sometimes, but what
Yeah.
we can do is to call a vote. And in some cases, I do that so that we can have a decision that everybody agrees with rather than just a minority opinion about it. Um, so I think that will be the case here, is that if there are some strong disagreements, that we would need to be voting on it.
How many
Yeah.
people serve on the Planning Commission?
There's 9.
Okay.
And all 9 slots are filled? You have 9?
Yes, right now I think they are. And the other thing is that there's an awful lot of new people, new to Underhill and new to the Planning Commission, so they aren't all that familiar with the town plan, for example. So I think, spending time educating them will be really important, and they may, most of them may be very interested in that. Another topic that I wanted to raise with everyone here is, I'm fine with giving this overview presentation. When we come to the specifics about actions and stuff, I would really like to kind of divide up our duties so that people that are, have strengths in certain areas can be the spokesperson, and that they hear from a diversity of voices rather than just one person. So I wanted to see what you all thought about that, and whether there's certain sections you would feel comfortable giving some deep depth with.
Sure, I'd be
I'm happy
willing
to help
to.
out.
Yeah, we just figure out what we're going to do and how to divvy up the wealth, and off we go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd be willing to do something presenting on the natural and working lands for sure.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
What else? The other item on the agenda is the town website. I don't know how many of you realize we have a new town website. And there's a page for our task force. Amanda asked what we would like to have on that. Right now, it just has the list of the members and our meeting times, basically. Um, so we can talk about what we want on there tonight, or you can send me some ideas. I would like to put our purpose and a little bit of background about it, just a paragraph that
Yeah.
would allow people to know what's going on. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't feel like I have a whole lot to offer tonight, but one thing that I would point out as we've considered that for the Energy Committee is that I think that we've more or less agreed that we are interested in, maintaining some of this information, but mostly we want to work it in terms of links as opposed to original content. Just enough original content to sort of provide a matrix for links, because keeping this stuff up and keeping everything current and so on and so forth is a Herculean task that goes well beyond what I think any of us are likely to wind up putting into it. And if we work off of links and do some linking as opposed to a lot of original content, then I think that just about enough original content to sort of sew it all together.
okay, well, give it some thought. I may draft a paragraph and send it around for any comments or editing, and then we can go from there. Um, Are we ready at this point to ask no, we are not ready. Um, we will, since Anne is not going to be able to take the document and finish it for us, we'll need to be doing that. I might see if we can get some assistance from Amanda at the town hall in finishing the layout of it and whatnot. You know, I don't know. I'd like it to look nicer than it does in the Google Doc, but we may be tasked with just doing what we can do. Any other ideas on that particular thing? People you think would be helpful?
If
I mean,
Amanda, I mean, it seems the town, this group was charged to do this, but it wasn't for, I mean, the document looks pretty darn good, but if they can help bring it to the finish line just with formatting, that would be really helpful.
yeah, and I have to say Amanda is very helpful in things like
Okay.
that.
Like, that's great.
Yeah.
If we get this timing wise, it seems like we need another meeting before we meet with the planning commission. What do you think?
I hate to say it, but it probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe high level dry run kind of once over to type. Well, it's pretty nice, I have to say right now, but maybe. How do you, I don't know.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think if there's a somewhat finished product, it would be good to run through it one more time, and that
Okay.
might be a good use of time.
And it would give us a chance to work independently on some of the implementation plan. And you could think about which section you might want to do a presentation on and what content you think would be important to include there. Okay, so we will meet again June. What does that make it? I don't have my calendar right here. Just on anybody
I can
else.
tell you. Wait a minute. I could tell you. It's going to be June. It's the third. Is it the third or the fourth? June 20th is the third Tuesday. Oh, it's Wednesday. Okay, June 21st is the third Wednesday, and the 28th is the fourth.
I
Now
think,
we're on the fourth. We're on the fourth Wednesday this month.
yeah, we
Okay,
meet on the fourth Wednesday, so it'd be the 28th of June. All right. Any other business tonight?
Thank you
That's
very
enough.
much for that grand PowerPoint. It's very
Yeah, that's
nice.
quite fancy.
Yep. A lot of
Yeah,
work.
so much work, so much work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really well done.
All right. Uh, does anybody want to adjourn us? A motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It seems
Thank
funny
you.
that that's the only thing we have to vote on, but
Well.
We'll come up with
all right.
something, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.